Hey, there we are. Happy Monday. You can trust that day. Hope you're having a good Monday. If you're watching live, if you're not watching live, whatever day it is, I hope you're having a good one, right? Thanks for being here, no matter whether you're watching live or watching after. I really appreciate you taking the time to watch and learn about, the people that I've been getting out with one-on-one and having these one-on-one conversations. We can learn so much from people just by listening, right? So there's a lot of stories to be told out there. So we'll get to this week's in just a moment. But if you have someone that you think should be sharing their story, or you think might like to see on the show, or maybe you have a story and you want to talk about the things that you do, whether it's what you do in the community or what you do for a living, or just sharing some positive thoughts, I would love to hear from you. Send me an email. How do I do that? There, down there. That's how we do that. David at tvsn.ca. Would love to hear from you and talk about having you here on the show. And boy, it's been a busy weekend. We're going to talk about some things with the Sarnia Sting, but always say hello in the comments wherever you are. Would love to hear from you. What's on your mind these days, and hope you've had a good weekend. Boy, I know we're really close, right? Like we're almost there as far as springtime comes. For those of us who ride motorcycles and that sort of thing, boats, bicyclists, cyclists. Is it bicyclist or cyclist? You know what I'm talking about. Getting more outside will certainly be where it's just something about the wintertime that tends to keep us inside more. I know some people love the winter. I'm okay with it. I mean, we do live in southwestern Ontario, right? But take a moment and say hello in the comments. And of course, before we get started, always a special thank you to our sponsors, Blue Water Power group of companies. Thanks for all that they do in our community. Joe's Discount Tire, been a great supporter. And of course, for over 11 years now, Guy at AskGuy.com. I say Ask Guy because it's easier. I think that's how he wants it. And you got to say it slow. It's AskGuy.ca. And give all these companies your support whenever you can. And I really appreciate the support that they give us here on the show, so I can keep coming back here every week and talk to you and share these great things. Like the Sarnia Sting are having a great, fantastic year. Yeah, they've had some people are like, well, they lost that one. But, sure, they have their struggles. Every team does. But they are doing very well in the standings right now, and did, for the most part, had a pretty good weekend. It just seems like the London Knights have got our number this year. We'll find out again coming up this Friday as they return to the PASA, the Progressive Auto Sales Arena, and we'll take on the London Knights once again. But this past Friday, it was 4-3. When we had them here in Sarnia, it was 4-3. It went to overtime and then a shootout. Same thing happened here. Went to overtime and then a shootout, and the same score, 4-3 in favor of the Knights. So hopefully we can get their number this Friday. But then the North Bay Battalion, not an easy team to beat, a top team in the league. And the Sarnia Sting came out on top of them at 8-2. And boy, there was a lot of aggression going on there. But again, they prevailed, North Bay, at 8-2. Now, just before that, I kind of got goals in the wrong order, but just before that, the night before, they would play Saginaw, another top team, and able to take them on 6-1 final there. So Sarnia Sting have certainly got some great strengths going on. Del Belbelou's in there, Nolan Burke with a lot of goals and assists, and there's just so many on this team. Sasha Pasajov and some really key players, but the entire team all together working very well out there on the ice, and a lot of us are really rooting for them, right? We want to see some great things coming. I think they're probably planning the party already, but there's still some fighting to be had out there as far as winning. And the London Knights will be back in town on Friday night. This coming Friday, March the 3rd? I think it is. Just go to sarniasting.com to find out more and get your tickets. I always like to see some new things happening around the town as well. Point Brewery Company in Point Edward, the new brewing company. I haven't been there yet. A couple of times tried to, just didn't make it. But I'm going to try to get out there Tuesday night, February 23rd. Beer Store Money, or Chris and Mel from Beer Store Money, I should say, will be hosting the open mic night that happens there from 7 till 10 p.m. And with Chris and Mel hosting, I know they'll attract some other great local musicians, and they themselves will be performing as well. So get out and support local. Once again, local music, local brewing, and that's happening Tuesday. And I think that's happening every Tuesday, right? So that's great to see. So much live entertainment happening around where we live. All you really got to do is go out and have a look online somewhere, and you'll find what's happening around town. But nice to see. And I miss Beer Storm, and I miss you guys. I haven't seen you in a while, so I'm hoping to get out there Tuesday and enjoy some of that music as well. Always great local musicians showing up too. All right, well, this week we're going to go out and talk to Brandon McCaskill. Sorry. Brandon McCaskill is a voiceover talent. He's a father and a husband, and he's got some views on some pretty neat things and things that he thinks should be happening in the city of Sarnia. And he was the campaign manager for Brooke Day, whom we had here last week. And this is just another fun, really enjoyable conversation with my new friend, Brandon McCaskill. Take a look. Love getting out. I keep saying it every week, but it's kind of nice to just be one-on-one with people. And today, Brandon McCaskill, thanks so much for bringing me into the home here.
No, appreciate you, and appreciate the opportunity to finally meet you in person.
Yeah, right. Oh, really? You discovered me online, did you?
Well, I've seen your face for years. Like, I think everybody knows who David Burrows is, but to be able to finally meet you in person, it's cool. Cool.
Yeah. Well, let's make it official then, right?
Yeah.
Do that.
Yeah.
So we're just gonna do what we normally do, Brandon, and just talk about you. And I guess we could really start. Are you originally from Sarnia?
Yep. Born and raised.
Yeah.
Yep. I have 7 brothers and 2 parents, and
7 brothers.
Raised with tons of boys in the house. So
wow.
They're all born here and raised here. Went to school here, and
yeah. What school did you go to?
I was homeschooled from grades 1 till 9.
Oh, wow.
I went to St. Clair Secondary for high school.
Oh, okay, cool. That's where I went to.
Oh, yeah?
Years ago. Back in the 80s, man.
Back in the 80s.
Yeah. Did you like school?
I did. High school, not so much. I loved homeschool because my parents really gave me opportunity to use my imagination. And
right.
I think that's really impacted what I do today because I like doing creative things and creating stuff. So I think it benefited me.
Yeah. So let's talk about your bread and butter that we were talking about before we started the camera there.
Right. Yeah. So I do voiceover as my full-time gig. Didn't always. This it started in late 2018.
Yeah. Okay.
But I came from the trades, so I was building houses.
Wow.
I've done every job that's ones I don't like talking about because it's just like it's mucky. It was frustrating work at times, but a lot of it was rewarding, like building a house. You know that feeling of walking away from a project that you're just proud of.
And then looking at it and going, "I did that."
I did that. Right? You can say that to your kids. But I knew all along, and even in like high school and college, because I tried college a couple of times.
Oh yeah.
But for me, I always struggled with what I wanted to do for a career because I never had that figured out in high school.
Yeah.
It seemed like kids my age, they had it figured out. They wanted to be lawyers and whatever, which is great. But for me, I didn't come to that conclusion until probably my late 20s.
Yeah.
So I just kind of took any job that I knew I could probably do well in, and so I did that for the longest time, and I'm proud of the work I did. And then it just got to an age where I got to figure out what I love to do.
Right.
Because as they say, if you don't love what you do, you're probably
you'd be miserable.
Be miserable.
Right.
Right. So while I was building houses, so this was 2019, and my brother told me about voiceover, that it was an actual, like an industry that people did well in. Like, up till that point, I thought that was kind of people's side hobby, or if you were someone famous that already had like an acting portfolio.
Like Morgan Freeman.
Yeah, right? So when I started digging into it and realized like these average, ordinary people like me, getting into it and actually doing well, I was just like, okay, maybe this is something. So
did you have to figure that industry out on your own, or did you have some guidance there?
Yeah, so I like to say there's 3 components to voiceover. So you got your audio part, you got to figure out what makes good quality audio.
Yeah.
You got your marketing, you got to figure out how to get your voice heard.
Right.
And then the performance, right? You got to have training. If you don't have any experience in acting or whatever, it's kind of if you're starting from scratch, it can be quite an adventure.
So do you do different voices? Like, do you get into, like, you know what I mean? Can you do multiple voices?
Yeah.
Can I prompt you?
Sure. So a popular one that people seem to buy from me a lot is, I call it my Bart voice, because it's an impersonation of one of my favorite characters on an audio drama called Adventures in Odyssey. So he kind of talks like this, and he's like this Brooklyn accent kind of guy. So that seems to be a pretty popular voice selection.
Why aren't you on Family Guy?
I know. Well, that's the dream. I think it'd be cool to one day have my own, animation studio, because I love drawing too. I love.
Oh yeah.
That's what I did as a young kid. I would draw these little storybooks, and that was part of what my parents would push me towards. They'd be like, they'd get me the sketchbooks, the pencils, and be like, just let your imagination run wild, kind of thing. That'd be my English project.
Right.
So that was. I enjoy that type of stuff.
That's good that you had that family support there. It sounds like there was a good structure in the family.
Yeah, my parents are awesome. Raising 8 boys, you kind of got to be awesome.
Kudos to mom.
Kudos
right?
to mom, yeah.
Now, and are you married, children? Anything?
I am married. I've been married for coming on 8 years.
Yeah.
And we got a little boy.
Nice.
Little Oliver.
How old's Oliver?
Oliver just turned 4.
Wow, you're busy.
Yeah, and we got a little one on the way, so.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, we're excited.
Yeah. Family life is fun for you, I bet.
It is fun. And just being able to work from home, like just knowing Dad's in the basement, I think he likes a lot.
Yeah.
So, and knowing that my family's just, one floor up is really cool too.
Yeah.
So.
There's rules in that though, I bet you. Like I know even my wife Jennifer, she'll laugh when I say this, but like you can't just walk in the door and interrupt what you're doing, right?
Well, that's the thing, because I should show you my studio sometime. It's, there's a video you can actually find on my website, BrandonMcCaskill.com, but I actually do a full tutorial of how I built it. It's this 5x4 by 6 high little booth that you could scream in there and nobody could hear you on the outside.
Wow.
So it's,
maybe I don't want to go in the studio. That's where I'm going to end up.
Yeah, I did my research, like all these engineers that did work.
Do you have the movers? What do they call them? The movers blankets.
Oh, the movers blankets. I did like early on when I first started. I used stuff like that just because it was inexpensive and it worked. But as I started booking work, I could start to afford the more pro stuff. So. Good
for you for creating your own business and working from home. There is a lot of advantages to that, and of course, our mutual friend Brooke that we had here on the show last week,
creative guy too.
Very, very right. But we talked about time management, and that's self-discipline of being an entrepreneur.
That's huge.
Do you struggle with that?
From time to time, like when I'm tired. All I want to do is turn on a YouTube video, sit back and just watch what I want to watch. But when I have deadlines, specifically when there's a client waiting on me, I have to put that stuff aside. You have to, because it's so dependent on, like if I get even a 4-star review, they're going to pick someone else with perfect ratings. Yeah, and that costs me. So customer service is just.
Your reputation, right?
Exactly. You have to care.
So you started that. When did you start that again?
So that was December of 2018 when I first. It's an interesting story. So I was building houses full time, like I said, and my brother told me about this website, voices.com. Right. So I uploaded some demos and I was doing some auditioning. I was just like, I don't know if I can do this because I'm not a pro. And, all those excuses you come up with. Yeah. But my first job was. After an hour coming home every day, putting an audition in, just spending an hour every day doing that. After a month of doing that, I booked $2,300 job.
Wow.
And here I was, this rookie. My audio sounded horrible. Now it was around Christmas time, so I'd imagine these producers, like everybody else, is going with their families and stuff. Maybe I was the only one that they could choose from, but that little inspiration set the fire going for me, and I was like, maybe I can do this.
It's funny how money does that.
I know. It was very motivating, for sure.
Yeah, and then now here you are doing it full time, and you're around the family. And is this something you think you'll? Sometimes this kind of thing has a lifespan to it. You know, is this something you see yourself doing for a long, long time, or do you get bored?
Some jobs I do.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you just don't have any interest in what you're talking about.
Right.
Because that's part of being the actor, right? You got to pretend that you're interested.
Yeah.
But some of the stuff, like I've had pretty incredible opportunity. I've done work for McDonald's, DJI, even Amazon. We talked about Amazon earlier. So when you get that type of stuff, it's just like cool,
Very credible to you,
right?
Too then, and that looks good on a resume and on the website.
So I think, like, even if I'm not interested in the product, it's still kind of cool to say I've done that, right? Kind of like the house thing. I built that, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So
you're doing like commercials, and do you do like stories at all?
So stories in terms of like audiobooks, I try to stay away from just because it's time consuming.
Yeah.
And maybe it's just the perfectionist side of me. Like when I'm in the booth, I'll record a line. If I don't like it, I'm recording it again.
Yeah.
So with an audiobook, you really got to be snappy if you want to make money.
Yeah.
That's just not me. I really care about the quality and the craft. So I want it to sound good. So I try to attack jobs that are something that I can pay a little bit more care to.
Right.
Yeah.
McDonald's. Wow, that's really cool.
Yeah, that was in Europe actually. So it wasn't North America, but it was McDonald's in Europe. So, and that's the other thing. Like this, spans not only locally or even nationally, or even in the States, but it's international. I think I'm up to 50 to 60 countries that I've worked in so far.
Well, that's really great that you've been able to expand into that, and so. Let's talk about you and Brooke Day, kind of partnering up there. Brooke obviously ran for city council, and you were his campaign manager?
Yeah.
How did that come about?
Right. So me and Brooke actually met on my channel. So I had another gentleman on my channel, a couple guys. We would just talk politics. And one of my buddies was just like, you need to meet Brooke. Like, he worked with him at Patty's, and he's like, Brooke's really into politics. He's actually living in Taiwan, but he's from Sarnia. I think you guys would hit it off. So I'm like, well, let's have him on the show. And so we ended up having Brooke on what we called Momentum Monday, where we just kind of shoot the breeze talking about politics. And right away, I was just like, I like this dude. He's very knowledgeable.
It clicked right away.
Yeah. And I don't know if you got the impression, but the way he, I guess, presents himself, he seems a lot younger than he is. I don't mean to say that he's
I know
old,
what you're saying. I worked with him at Patty Flaherty's 2 years ago, so I know how old he is.
Like I'm 32, but it seems like in many ways we're the same age, personality-wise. But I think that is a huge asset to him, because he's not only got that humble and approachable personality to him, but he has experience that I don't have. So I think I answered your question, right? That's how we kind of came to be.
Yeah.
But we ended up working on his campaign trail, because I had mentioned in our little Facebook chat that we had going, I said, I'm like, what do you guys think of me running for city council? And at first it was all crickets. And
you're like, okay, no votes in this chat room.
Yeah. But I got a phone call from Brooke probably about an hour after that. He said, Brent, I saw your message. He said, dude, that'd be awesome if you ran for city council. Because I had people saying, Brent, you'd be a good decision maker for the city. You got a good head on your shoulders, that kind of stuff. But he's like, yeah, do what you want. He said, but I was actually going to run myself. He said, I'd love to have someone like you on my team. He said, just something to consider. He's like, and he wasn't sure if he was going to run 100%. He said, he gave me a time. He said, if I don't know by this amount of time, I'll let you know, and just do what you want. So I took a week to think about it. I was just like, you know what? I'm not the policy maker type person.
Yeah.
Maybe my personality some people like, but to me, personality I don't think makes a good policy maker.
I would agree.
I think you need a balance of both.
Yeah.
In my opinion. So for me, I was just saying, this is probably a great opportunity to learn from someone like Brooke, who's, he knows the balance sheet.
Yeah.
He knows how to run a business, and you talk to him, he's very successful at what he does. So I saw that as kind of a schooling opportunity for me.
Right.
So that's how we got involved, and we did pretty well.
Yeah. Good that you could recognize that about yourself. I think sometimes we go, I can overcome that obstacle. But sometimes you're right, to take the opportunity to learn first.
Yeah.
And maybe you will run again down the road. Who knows?
Who knows?
That's good that you can recognize that.
Yeah, well, especially when it comes to people's hard-earned tax dollars, right?
Right.
That's what I'm thinking.
Other
of,
people's money.
Do I trust myself with that? And I think from like a moral perspective, I wouldn't do anything evil with people's money, but it's like I run my voiceover business. That's the extent of my my business background, right? So let's get some more experience under it. Let's learn from people that've been there.
What would you say you really learned? What was a big thing that you did learn from working with
the campaign? So I guess my main responsibility was damage control.
Okay.
So because the nature of politics, and when you got I hate saying left versus right, but you got people coming from all angles trying to attack the candidate. So it was kind of my job to offer answers that would be satisfactory to people. Read that. Going through their news feeds, trying to find out about Brooke Day. I don't want them saying that he's a racist or whatever. I'm there to give correct information. So I think I took that role took a lot of my time because there was just a lot of attempts to try to smear him in a bad light. But,
right. I bet you. Oh, for sure. Well, and I think and he mentioned it in our interview that he just got back. Yeah. So why would why would I run? I just got back here,
Right.
But I know people like yourself and some others really got in his corner and supported him. So and then you did a lot of the. I bet you guys had a lot of fun working together too, because even though Brooke says he's a serious guy, he's got a sense of humor too, right? Yeah. Did you guys have a good time doing this?
Well, yeah, especially behind the scenes, right? You get to know Brooke.
Yeah.
It's not like you can't get to know Brooke through the camera, but you can pop the collar, right?
Right.
Business is over when the camera shut off.
Yeah.
He's a fun guy.
He really is.
I think we could talk about this later if you want, but like the importance of having humor as a part of politics. I think
right.
There's a need for it. Like when you're just sitting there butting heads with people all the time, you got to learn to laugh at yourself. You got to be able to take some funny pokes. That's why I love memes. Not everybody loves memes, but
I used to. It's funny you say that. I used to go, don't be putting memes out there. Come on, that's unprofessional. But I'm wrong. I think that I look at them now, and now I've started posting my own memes, right? So I'm like guilty now, right? But what is it you love so much about memes?
Well, see, I can understand because I'll get this feedback a lot. They'll be like I'm taking away from the serious tone that is required for discussion. But for me, it costs such a mental toll when you're not laughing, when you're taking yourself too seriously, I think, right? Yeah. And I don't think anybody can handle that amount of stress. So I can't. Maybe that's part of why I didn't want to run for city council, because it's just so you have to be serious.
Boy, you got to have rhino skin too, right?
But I think at the same time, even if you're in a position of power, you can have a sense of humor. And I see politicians doing that all the time. Like Donald Trump, for example, he was the biggest troll, but he was good at memes. He was a master.
Yeah. So that's I like how you say that, because it's so true. And even Brooke said, he talked about the whole COVID thing. He said, people.
Yeah.
Just relax.
Just relax.
Just
breathe.
don't take this so serious, And you're right. It's some lightheadedness, humor in there really goes a long way with people. And the stress. I mean, aren't we stressed out enough already over, our daily lives sometimes, of what's going on and money and what's going on with family and everything?
Yeah.
You've obviously found a balance for yourself between, working and family.
Right.
Is that a challenge at times?
Between just work and
like,
family?
are you 9 to 5 in your studio, or how does that work?
No, I'm a bit everywhere.
Yeah.
Wherever I can fit it in. I'm kind of a loose cannon in that sense, where if family is more important, like right now, like because my son is a hospital child, like he's got medical needs, so obviously when stuff like that comes up, I can shift, and that's what's beautiful about my job, and I can kind of set my own schedule. So.
Yeah. Now, you did a lot of the filming for Brooke's campaign too, like made a lot of commercials and stuff, and I suspect you had some fun with that.
Oh yeah, there's some.
Did you have to train Brooke?
No, he comes from his family. His wife works in the film industry. Yeah. And it's funny because we were just over there last night filming one of his business video for his consulting group, and so I was filming, and oh man, that was a good leg workout, by the way. But, no, he had his daughter there. She was holding the light, and he's barking orders. I'm like, you can tell this family's, from film. So that's having someone with that experience already was just, it was helpful, and I didn't really have to manage the set, if we want to call it that, during the campaign. But there was fun times. Like we were caught out in the Wawanosh wetlands trying to film something like with the nice autumn leaves in the background, and I realized I forgot my tripod. And I was like, oh dang it! And we had already walked like a kilometer to where we were. So he's like, go in the bush and we'll find sticks, and we ended up making this little TP thing with our camera on top.
Awesome.
So just thinking back,
look around you and work with it, right?
just thinking back at stuff like that, things that would happen, we'd make the most of it. It was funny. And fun.
Let's switch gears a little bit and talk about comedy. You mentioned that, maybe that's a sore spot. I don't know. You said you attempted comedy a few years ago, did you?
Yeah, so I'm trying to think of what year that was. I think I want to say like 2016, 2017. Okay. There was at the Family Rock Church, they called it stand-up comedy events. They did it every couple months, and some guy would come from, I believe, Guelph, sorry.
All right.
And he'd come down and he'd host these things, and I went and watched the show, and I was like, this is funny. And I noticed they gave a young kid that was starting an opportunity to, do a set.
Right.
So I went up after and said, what does it take to, sign up and, be here the next time you guys come around? He's like, yeah, for sure. And he said, email me your bit and stuff like that. So I did that, and my first time I was terrified. And I remember going back and I'll call it the green room, but like the coffee room.
Right.
And he's like, pitch me. He's like, practice in front of me before you go on stage. And I don't know what it is. I don't know how you are with public speaking, but it's worse when it's just two people than a crowd of people. I couldn't get words.
It's a different vibe.
I was a deer in the headlights. But after doing it a couple times, because that day I went on stage and they said I crushed it. They said you did really good. And I did it probably 7 more times after that. I traveled to, because they went to different cities, so I traveled with them to Brantford. I did a set there, and I played some. I wrote some funny songs. One was about craft dinner, and one was Pepto-Bismol, and they love those types of funny songs. So I did that, but I guess I would still do stuff like that. But my comfort zone, it took so much mental strength to just to prepare myself for that. And it was stressful. I couldn't handle that kind of stress. I mean, you hear it's like that is pretty common for, comedians to be depressed and, typically like hard lives after doing, comedy for so long. Because I think there is this huge emotional spend where you're reliant on people's reactions. Yeah. And when you don't get that reaction, it's just like, oh my gosh, right?
I hear you. I hear you. I do a lot of public speaking and emceeing things too, right? So and my wife will tell you, I call it professional anxiety before I walk out on the stage. Yeah. I've done Border Fest from the start, I think. Yeah. And I'm just, and then she's like, what are you worried about? You've been doing this for 30 years. And I'm like, it's that professional anxiety because you want to do a good job. You want to deliver. You're not even thinking about yourself, really. You're like, are they going to like this or whatever? Right. And then I'm usually 30 seconds in, and then I'm like, okay, I got this, right? But I'll be like this. Yeah. And it's just a switch that goes on after you get. But if there's no reaction, if the crowd's talking, like if they're just talking while you're trying to say something, and it's hard to hear yourself, or whatever. So kudos for you for doing that, because I think probably comedy, it's something I've thought about doing too, but it's probably one of the toughest gigs out there.
It is, yeah.
Did you ever flop?
Yeah, well, because I think my strength was with my music, so like when I'm practicing, I don't know what's happening, but it's just like, I know this part's going to go well, and they're going to like this part, but then when you get on stage, it's like the reverse. They didn't like that part that you thought they were going to like.
Right.
And when you don't get that reaction inside your head, you're like, oh, crap. And then when you're thinking, oh, crap, you're forgetting your next line, and then snowballs, right? So it's just like, I couldn't handle that anymore.
Was it the same? Did you have just one bit that you did? And so you had multiple?
Yeah, so I did it, like I said, I think it was 7 or 8 times, if I'm remembering correctly, but I'd have different, sometimes I'd recycle the joke, just tell it in a little bit of a different way.
Yeah.
Because it was a church, so I was trying to make a church audience laugh.
I was going to say, so it's clean comedy, no swearing, all that stuff,
No, I try not to swear, but just in everything I do.
Yeah.
An old saying someone told me, said, you'll never offend anybody if you don't swear, so.
Right. Wow.
Right, so
yeah, that's a good one.
I try to just, if it's not a habit, then it's not a struggle to not swear, so. Right. Yeah.
That's good. So, okay, now let's switch gears again here. And can we talk a little politics right now?
Sure.
I don't really know how to ask this question other than what are your thoughts on whatever's going on in our city?
In our city. So, well, obviously we elected a new council. We got some new faces there. So,
yeah.
My thoughts was I hoped that Brooke would have got in.
Yeah, right.
I think we need new leadership in the sense that we need to focus more on policy than, I don't know how to say this, without caring so much about people's feelings.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Where
do we worry too much about offending people?
I think so.
Yeah.
And it's taking us into dangerous territory because, like, what's the plan for when the baby boomer generation retires?
Right.
What's happened? What is the consequence of not putting all our focus? I'm not saying all the focus needs to be, but if we're not focusing on policy that brings more families here, that makes the families here want to stay here.
Yeah.
Do we have the leadership to make that happen? I guess we'll see.
Yeah.
But to be honest with you, I told you the reason why I didn't run for council, because I didn't have experience. What I'm seeing is inexperience. I don't know how to put that any other way.
Yeah.
I was just hoping for someone like Brooke. And if we could, I love Bill Dennis too, business-minded man. I put it this way, I think our city needs to be run like a business, at least for a little while.
It makes sense, right? You know, like you take in this much money, you can only spend this much money, and you only got a certain amount of, there's a credit card limit, right?
That's right.
And if you don't pay, you pay interest and all that stuff.
Yeah, there was a meme that I made a little during the campaign. It was a picture of a chocolate chicken and then a real chicken. I said, right now this chocolate chicken is what our current state of mind is in Sarnia. Like, it's sweet, it'll give us temporary pleasure, but what we need is a real chicken so that we can keep laying eggs, and it's this investment mindset.
Great.
I thought it was a brilliant
great meme. I love it.
It's funny too, right? So.
Yeah. And did you get reaction from that from that meme?
Brooke laughed.
Yeah, Brooke laughed.
No, people liked it. It was, yeah. Gotta have comedy.
Yeah, right. And well, you mentioned before, like comedy or humor in politics really just relax people. But so how do we, to go back to that question of we're always worrying about offending somebody. Like, would you agree that no matter what we do, somebody somewhere is going to be offended?
Yeah.
Even if we don't swear.
Yeah, exactly. Well, there's a quote from Jordan Peterson. He says, the risk of speaking your ideas is you're going to offend people.
Yeah,
That's
100% he said that.
Right. So,
you watch a lot of Jordan Peterson?
When he comes up on my news feed a lot, so it must be something to do with the algorithm. The things I'm watching, they think I like them.
Right.
But I think he's got some good stuff to say.
Yeah. Who else do you follow?
Oh, a slew of others. I like the Daily Wire folks.
Yeah, Ben Shapiro.
Yeah, they got very articulate arguments. I like to.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah, well, I think you got to be in today's day and age. If you're just kind of parroting people's things, that's what I hope I'm doing, is taking people's good ideas and kind of framing them in my own way, that I'm not just parroting them, but it is something that I believe, and conveying it in my own creative way.
Yeah.
I think there's too much unoriginality, if that makes sense.
Okay.
Where people are just kind of stealing other people's stuff, and they don't really believe it. It just sounds good. But I try to be as original as I can.
Do you watch South Park or anything like that? Are you into that?
Oh, my friends will send me little clips here and there.
Yeah.
But I never sat down. I don't think I've ever watched a full episode. But.
So have you seen? So now I want to ask you this. I'll step on some shaky waters, maybe. What do you think? Well, maybe not. I don't know. I think it'll be funny.
Yeah.
Harry and Meghan.
Oh dear.
Like they're always offended. It seems lately, and they want all this privacy, and yet they're always out there. And here's my book, and then South Park. Did you hear about that with South Park? So South Park did a thing on the two of them.
Yeah.
And of course it was very South Park.
Yeah.
And now they're screaming bloody murder, right?
Gosh.
You know, because they want all this privacy, and now they're back in the camera again.
Right.
So do you have any thoughts on them?
I haven't put too
or the
much
royal
thought.
family in general?
Yeah. Well, now with here's the one struggle that I've been dealing with since the Queen's.
Yeah,
deceased.
she's gone.
I can't get out of my vocabulary when talking about swearing an oath to the Queen. You got to say the King now. Like, I can't get into that because that's what I've said my entire life.
Yeah.
But I don't pay too much attention to that because it's just like TMZ type drama for me. But when I do hear it, because even like the Daily Wire, they'll do little clips making fun of them. Like I tend to agree with what you're saying. Like, you want your privacy, but you want this attention at the same time. That's a contradiction. Like,
well, you got to sell books, right?
Yeah, double-edged sword here.
Yeah.
But
what do you do in your spare time so if it's not with family and it's not, working? Do you got some hobbies?
what's spare time?
Right.
What is that?
Yeah, this isn't a hobby. This is what I do.
Yeah. Well, actually, I'm a writer. I love writing.
Okay.
I just published a book. It's my second that it's self-published. So I published the book 2020, and now this
What's
year.
that about?
My first book was a Christmas book. It's called When Christmas Came to Life. It was when our son was having his surgery in Toronto. We were basically living in the hospital down there, so it was how I killed time. I typed the whole thing on my phone.
Really?
Imagine these big thumbs.
How many pages is it?
Oh, well, it's for a novel. It's pretty short. It's I think around 96 pages, but
Still, that's a lot of
that's
a lot of thumb tapping.
still a lot. Then the second book, it's called A Prayer for Walton Bay, and that came like right off the heels of the last book because I just wanted to keep writing. But I was obsessed with this thought of, because especially during the pandemic, I don't know if you've noticed, but there's been a lot of division, even within families.
Oh yeah.
At
Well,
the
the
workplace.
people's colors really came out, right? True colors.
Really, really did.
And you're right. Are we divided still because of that? Do you think?
I think in a lot of ways we're still experiencing the unforgiveness of that, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's still a lot of people bitter of how things were handled, how certain people treated each other. And I sense it, at least, that there's still some resentment.
Yeah.
But I became obsessed with this thought of like having like just a precious relationship with someone, and then just for one little misunderstanding, you throw the entire thing away. And like if just this thought of if we could give people that whatever that answer is, whatever that little piece of truth is, would their perspective completely turn? Sometimes that is the case for me. Sometimes I just need a little piece of information, and boom, my perspective's changed.
Right.
So I was just thinking, like, what kind of story can I tell surrounding that?
Okay.
So,
have we forgotten how to forgive?
that's a good question.
Right.
That's a good question.
Because we're not always going to agree. Husbands and wives don't always
Yeah.
agree and have disagreements, and then you have to learn to forgive. And I mean, I believe to forgive to a point.
Right.
I mean, if you keep doing the same thing over and over and over and over, it's like, okay, you don't really care. But what do you think about that?
Well, that's a good question. I think for me, like I'm raised a Christian boy, so that's kind of a commandment. We're supposed to forgive even our enemies, even if they're spitting in our
Well, even
face.
in the Lord's Prayer, it says it, forgive those, but do we?
Exactly, yeah. And I think, because I see it from both, we'll call it sides. Let's use the pandemic, for example.
Yeah.
I've heard it said from both that I'll never forgive you. I'll never forgive you. But the essence of, I think, what is, for so long the bedrock of, North American, Western culture is the melting pot aspect, right? Where we can coexist with one another and agree to disagree. I think in relation to forgiveness, part of that is just saying, you know what, I can disagree with you, but I can still be in the same room with you.
Yeah.
And we can still have a coffee together or whatever.
Yeah.
But I think, I don't know if that's the same thing, but forgiveness, I don't know.
It's tough, right?
It's tough. I'm trying to connect the two.
Well, and then to add into the toughness, forgive and forget.
Forgive and forget.
Forgetting, I think most of us can learn to forgive, but we have trouble forgetting. Like, I forgive you, but then if you don't forget it, are you really forgiving?
That's a good
Getting
question.
philosophical on the show here,
I love
but
these deep talks,
right?
man.
But
Well,
it's really because the things we deal with, politics is a great example of forgiving and forgetting.
Yeah.
It's such an emotional thing to do, right? And to go further with this, is there too much emotion involved in politics?
I think so. I think so. And because we talked about incorporating humor. Humor is a type of emotion.
Absolutely.
Right? But
one I prefer.
So I think so. Like, I think there's an important balance you need to keep with emotion. Like, and I have to have people reach out to me, and I reach out to people, like holding each other accountable, saying, you know what, you're getting a little too emotional. Like, you're probably being a little too angry with this person. Like, back off a little bit.
Right.
And it's cool to have those friends that know when to send you a private message saying, you know what, maybe you shouldn't do that.
Yeah.
So,
well, that's a friend.
Yeah.
That tells you.
I guess that's
I have a
definition
saying
of a
with
friend.
some of my buddies. It's my friends stab in the front, everybody else stabs in the back.
There you go.
Right.
That's a good analogy. Yeah. But speaking of forgiveness, I was talking, I can't remember who about this the other day, but the thing she said, she's like, forgiveness sets you free more than the other person. And I was like, that's true.
I've not heard that one.
Maybe forgiveness is all about us letting go.
Yeah.
Rather than waiting for that person to be sorry. I think that's what a lot of the times we're waiting for. We want that apology. We want you to acknowledge.
What do you mean apologize to you? You apologize to me, right? Yeah.
It's like, what's the downside to forgiving? Right?
Well, interesting. Do you put you said you're raised Christian, right?
Yeah.
So is there a lot of philosophy like this in your? Are you a philosophy kind of guy?
I've always enjoyed the debate.
Yeah.
A lot of people will call it keyboard warrior type stuff.
Oh yeah.
But to me, being a writer as well, you have more time to think about what you want to say and be more careful, I think, behind a keyboard. I wouldn't necessarily try to bash people behind a keyboard.
No,
I think that's
but I know what you mean. Some people do that. They can say more,
Yeah.
instead, but you won't say it to your face.
Yeah,
right? It's
exactly.
keyboard. But I always found interesting about the keyboard too is when I see somebody. We talk about swearing, and I'm bad for it. I'll admit it. But
we all are.
Sometimes you can slip with a word.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
When I see people on social media or texting, and they're typing the 4-letter word out.
Yeah.
And one guy goes, "Oh, sorry, I slipped." I'm like, "No, you didn't. You had 5 chances.
Yeah.
You had 4 letters and an enter key before you sent that."
Yeah.
And it's just a different. I don't know, and it doesn't even mean to me when I read it. And I'm just like, it doesn't have the same effect on me if you just say it to my face, right?
Well, maybe it's like the older generation, because back then when you sent letters, you would write it,
Yeah.
let it sit on your desk, and then by morning you'd be like, you
Probably shouldn't
start
do that.
again.
Yeah.
So we don't put a lot of.
You ever sent an email you wish you hadn't hit the enter key?
Oh, all the time, especially with just typos,
Yeah,
right?
right.
I wish I read that over.
I have
before sent
I
it.
have Grammarly. It's great. It never
Yeah.
lets me make a mistake. Well, at least in my typing.
See, I
Maybe
have
not what I say.
Grammarly, but it'll correct it to something I don't want. Like,
Right.
Come on, man.
Yeah. Uninstall.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah.
What's next?
Oh, what's next? Well, we're having a baby this
Yeah.
we're expecting it late July, so that's been the anticipation.
Do you know what you're having, or
We'll find out, I think, next week.
Okay.
I think that's the appointment that we find the gender.
we'll
so-
look for the announcement?
Yeah, I'm excited. But as for business, actually right now I hired Brooke as my business consultant. He's
Yeah.
going to take my website, my demos for my voiceover business, and give me more traction, like put me more, more visible on Google and
Yeah, right.
try to,
SEO stuff. And,
yeah, because that's the area where it's kind of uncharted waters for me. Haven't exactly tapped into that. So
Yeah. So more growth for
more
Brandon.
growth. You can always grow, right?
That's right. Awesome. Brandon, I got to tell you, this is, why didn't we do this sooner?
I know.
Except for the fact that thanks to Brooke, we got connected.
Yep.
You made a comment and said something about blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, you're next. And
Yeah.
you're like, all right, let's go. Right. So
Yeah.
thank you so much for
Thank
your
you,
time.
Dave.
I look forward to our friendship continuing.
Yeah, for sure.
Right on. All right, Brandon McCaskill, everybody, and BrandonMcCaskill.com to find out more about him, and we'll put the links in the description. Thanks for watching.
Brandon McCaskill, thank you so much, Brandon. Really enjoyed that conversation. I'm really enjoying these conversations getting out. I know I'm repeating myself, but I get really excited when I head towards the person's home or wherever we're meeting. And I'm always excited to find out, what am I going to learn from this person? What are they going to share? So thanks again, Brandon. And I look forward to, let's get out and have coffee or lunch sometime and continue the conversation. And of course, you can find Brandon online at brandonmccaskill.com. We'll post that in our comments section after the show as well. Thanks again, Brandon. And thanks to all of you who are always here supporting and watching. Now, I always like to reiterate with this. Please, you can click the like and the love button. That's fine. But the best button that you can click is the share button. Share the story of Brandon and all these people that I'm interviewing. Share their story. Let's spread it around for others to enjoy. So the share button is the best way you can do that. And thank you for showing up and giving us your time here today on the show. But as always, that's all the time I got for you this week. Have a great week and an even better weekend. I will see you next time right here on the show. Here it comes. Ready? Bye for now.